Hi, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm working on abstracting a crow, and it's a picture of a crow that I located on Pixabay. There's lots of pictures of crows, so if you decide that you want to do something similar to this, you'll have lots of choices. So first I'm just putting down some titanium white, and this is the golden fluid acrylics. And I put a little ultramarine blue, which is a Liquitex acrylic. And just putting them down with a credit card. Sort of use whatever's handy, and that was handy. I do have the actual little scraping tools that I bought from Lowe's, I think it was. So just getting this down, and I like the feel of just moving that paint around and thinking about how that's going to look at a certain place. And then I've got the golden fluid acrylics black, and I'm just going to work a little bit of this into the bottom. And you can see as you scrape back and forth, you get a nice gray. And so if you wanted to, you could really play with that and wipe the scraper off each time and not have very much of the black left, which leaves a very nice gray. So I'm just going to continue to work that in a bit. And then a little more of the titanium white so that I can see how that sort of gray. And this is a burnt sienna. I wanted just some tan there. And so now I'm starting to think about the crow and what I'd like to see in the background for the crow. And I usually start out with the color, which I did with that blue, but sometimes I don't leave much of the blue, as you can see, on the painting, although you can always scrape back and get the blue back, some of it. But I'm just working through and thinking about the image of the crow. And I have a few images. I have a flying crow, one that's standing looking back, and one that's just the side view of the crow. And I'm not quite sure if I'm just going to use one or I'm going to work in some pieces of the other. Like the flying crow, I might have a wing in the painting. You just have to see as you go along what you like and what's working. And sometimes at a certain point you'll see, I need to stop here. This is looking good to me. But you can always go back until that time, and even after that time if you still own the painting. For me, many paintings are not finished until they're sold, because once I have them and as I change things and work through other abstracts, I might find techniques that I think, that would make that painting look better or different in a way that I like, and I'll just go back and work on it some more. So they're never really gone until they're sold. So now just working in some of the paint along that tape edge so that when the tape comes up, most of it will be a nice clean edge. But, if it isn't a clean edge, then you can always, the mat's going to cover that. Just cut the mat accordingly. I'm using the end of a brush to kind of score some of the black. And the black is down pretty firm now when it's more wet. You can get it wetter than this when you use a tool, or, as I have done, the end of the brush. You can really pull that back to even the blue or the titanium that's underneath. And now I'm just going to put in a couple of lines. At least I can see where I might want to position the crow. Not quite sure yet. Let's see. Okay, and then just some markings. I think a lot of people do markings when they're doing abstracts. It just, I don't know, it's a sense of placement for me in a way. If I put the markings in it, I'm just playing with the paper a bit like I would with a collage. Or at least that's how I'm thinking about it. And then getting a little bit of that color in the upper left. And in this point of the painting, it really is thinking not only about where you're going to position if you are going to do some kind of figure, but also what palette you're using and what seems good at the time. So this is looking pretty good to me. I like the balance of the top and bottom, and those lines have also given me that idea. So the placement will be a little bit easier. And then just some additional markings. This is with a brush and titanium white that has a lot of water in it. And this is just a graphite pencil. Sometimes over an acrylic, a graphite pencil it won't give you a graphite, but it'll just score it in a way that you can get underneath and almost have some little white lines. And if you don't like them, just as I'm doing, just scrape them out. Or you can make them flatter if there's too much texture for you, more than you wanted. And just lightening up that corner a little bit. This also gives you an idea, sometimes you come across a color where you think, oh, I really like that color, and you might be working on more than one piece at a time, or you have another idea or a drawing of a piece you'd like to do, and you think, well, that color is good. I just make a little note of what I did. In that case, it was a little bit of black, titanium white, and a tiny bit of the burnt sienna. And I got that sort of tan that I really liked. So now I'm just plotting out that white section at the top. So right now, this is a pretty good background for me. These are the kind of backgrounds that I like. I'm putting in a blue pencil here. Once again, just to try to get a feeling of that square. I don't often keep that many of the pencil lines visible, but they just help me think about placement. And in a purely abstract piece, that's important, but particularly in something where I'm going to add some kind of a figure. So in this case, the body of a crow. But anything like that, trees or a landscape sort of idea with houses maybe, those markings really help me. I liked that white marking that I just blotted out, but because the paint was so dry there, I could only get that one white. If I could have gotten more strikes, I would have left that in. Okay, so back to the top a little bit. And now I have a pretty good idea. I'm going to start sketching the crow in. And I'm just sketching this in with a charcoal pencil. And the thing I like about a charcoal pencil for this kind of thing is I can blur the edges and kind of get an idea how that color, that dark color, is going to look in the white. Do I want this more of a silhouette, or do I want it to be actually white? So that's how I use it. You can use a graphite if you want to. You can use a watercolor pencil. You can use the brush with a very liquid acrylic on it. Whatever works for you. And then in this case, too, you can always rub it out if you don't like the way the crow is positioned or whatever you happen to be drawing. In the bottom, I used a general white. And those general white pencils, I'm just in love with those, especially on a dark surface. As you can see, I can really see the legs clearly. And yet, if I use my finger to rub, they come right out. So they have really been a find. A friend of mine who's an artist was using them all the time. Oh, what is this? And so she shared with me the general whites. And I'm going to get that other feather in a little bit. Now, I don't know why at this angle the crow looks a little bit on the thin side, but straight on, and I'm going to show you the picture of the finished piece, and there was one at the beginning of this in the intro card. It's quite a bit heavier. So it's just the angle of the crow. But now I'm using more of that charcoal pencil, as I said, so that I can blur it, and now I'm just going to go in with the black paint. Now that I can see that I do want it filled in, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. And the paint is pretty fluid, as you can see, so I'm getting some nice modeling. It is the thing I miss about using just watercolor, because it's so liquid. That modeling is really nice. And I'm thinking I might do another version of that just so that I can see what that looks like, because I like that so much. But I'm pretty happy with this so far. I don't see any things where I really need to make drastic changes, so I'm just going to continue on. I always had the idea that that dark section to the left would have a white wing. This is still the dark piece of it, and I wasn't sure if I was going to make kind of a silhouette using one of the white pens, or maybe some more titanium with a very tiny brush, and just kind of give us the, I don't know, the hint of the crow in that section. So I'm still thinking through that at this point. But so far, so good. And I'm thinking that because I have other pictures of the crow and crows that are flying, you know, groups of crows that are on tree branches, that this will probably be a beginning of a series for me. It is really, for me, one of the things I enjoy in a series, because once I get the idea, and now I'm putting some burnt sienna in, just so I can get some of that shading, because the body of the crow, as we're looking at it, is much lighter. But of course, in a photograph, you can see the gray and the mottled pieces, and there's almost like a little checkerboard on the side, which we're not able to see so much with the paint, unless you do a very detailed, realistic sort of look. So I thought I'll just scratch some things in here so I can see how I might want to handle that, knowing that I'm probably not going to keep this scratching piece, especially the one that comes down in a straight line. That's a little too much for me. And I did like that black and white sort of checkerboard idea, so if I don't do something with it here, I probably will do it on the second painting. And I should have said this is on a canvas paper, which has a lot of tooth. I'm really going at these as far as scratching, and it's just no issue at all. And I did buy some Hanamula watercolor paper too, that's deckled on the edges and really thick rag. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I haven't used that yet, but that's upcoming. I have it on the table behind me, which you can't see. So that's definitely going to be part of one of the series, just so I can see how that paper works, because I haven't had it before. And it really looks nice. So those little scratches I did at the bottom, which I hadn't really thought of, now they look sort of like wheat or dried grass that the crow is standing on. So sometimes those happy accidents are just kind of the fun of an abstract as well. And this certainly is looking very fallish to me. And we're at the beginning of spring where I live, so it's a little bit odd. Usually I tend to paint what season is either coming up or that I'm currently in, but this one, I just had those colors in my mind, so I went ahead with it. I'm just placing the eye. It's really hard to see, I know, from your view, but for me, I can see it pretty well. And then more of a charcoal pencil there at the bottom to kind of get those feet in. And if I do have some pencil work in any of the abstracts or any of my paintings, and I know that that's going to be something that will vanish if someone touches it, I always put a fixative on top of it. And on one of these, as I'm going along with these abstracts, I'm going to try the cold wax on top. I like the look of that cold wax. I used to work in encaustic, and I just like the finish of it, the kind of depth that the wax gives. So I've got that crow body in pretty well the way that I wanted it. Just a little bit more of the markings with the titanium. I wanted something just a little bit thicker and more pronounced on the left-hand side there that would work its way into those little pieces I was talking about at the bottom of the painting. And I'm putting the eyeball in. Just giving it an idea there. Now this crow, for me, I won't say that it's realistic, but it's not as abstract as I like to go. So this is definitely for me the first part of a series, and that I tend to do that. I tend to get it in a little bit more modeled so that it looks like the crow, and as I go on, it looks less and less. You just get sort of the idea that there's a bird there, and I'm usually happy with that, and especially if I can exhibit them one after another so people can kind of see the progress of it. But the beauty of YouTube is that I will have the videos of these, and people that are working along with me or watching the videos, they'll get to see this. The process actually happening. Okay, thanks so much for watching. And there's the finished painting.